Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. So lately I've gotten some requests to do a video talking about which impossible quests are the easiest. And yeah, they're probably asking from the point of view of somebody who's kind of earlier in the game and doesn't have their first impossible. So I thought I would talk about the different impossibles, and then maybe which would be best for beginners to go after first. And then I was thinking about kind of the structure of the video. Should I do a list? Should I do rankings? But I think I'll just go through character by character, and then talk about, how easy the quest is, how easy it is to put together a team of drop monsters, and then how useful that character is, or how much worth that character would have to use. And then I will not include the Zero series, or the Colossal series, or Murasame or Muramasa, because they're very, very difficult, and I don't recommend any of them as anybody's first impossible monster. Okay, but anyway, let's go to kind of the first in the order of when it came out, and that is Izanami. Let's see. There she is. Alright, this is Izanami. She is the first one that ever came out, the first impossible monster. And then as for her quest herself, a lot of people consider her one of the easier impossible quests. I think that there are elements of it that make it very difficult, like the kind of the randomness of it, and then the very, very high damage output from everybody. But a lot of people do find it easy to play, easy to beat. And then for a lot of people it's their first max luck impossible, and it was for me as well. And then another nice thing about Izanami is that there are lots and lots of drop monsters that are good for her. And just the first two that come to mind, one is... where is he? One is Jormungandr here. He's kind of tailor-made for Izanami. And then we also get this guy free if you beat all the trial quests. So you can certainly use him. And then another really good one is Dax Evolution. He's one of the Mythos characters, so he's available very often. And then he actually works very well with Jormungandr. With Jormungandr, you want to position him underneath the boss and get the one-way laser into the boss. And then Dax Evolution is a Pierce, so he can very easily hit Jormungandr. And then also he has a Blast Bump combo, so that on Jormungandr's turn he can also get out his bump combo into the boss. So yeah, those are almost like freebies. And then you could round out your drop team with a Queen Butterfly, who is kind of thought of as the one of the best max lucks for Izanami. And then her quest is pretty easy as well. So yeah. Izanami, the quest itself, not too difficult, comparatively. And then there are lots of drop monsters that are easy to get that are also very good for her. So yeah, she's one of the most highly recommended as a first impossible. And then as for her use, she's super duper useful. Even at this advanced stage of the game, there are still many, many quests that she is ideal for. So yeah, that is Izanami. Next up is Kushinada, and then a lot of people consider her impossible quest to be the easiest, and I can see this being true. However, if you do not have any of the right hatcher monsters, then you have to rely on drop monsters, and then all of the kind of the red null warp drop monsters are very difficult missions. We can take a quick look at those. And then this is also not counting other impossible monsters, since this is meant to be a first impossible video. So one monster you can get is Fenrir X, and yeah, he's got the null warp. He's a little tricky to get though, because you do need Oragon, which I think they hand out anyway. And then his quest is a bit on the difficult side too. Another good one, you could do Queen of Hearts. I think, let's see here. yeah, the Ascension has null gravity barrier, which is useful in Kushinada. And the Evolution, I forget, might have null warp or null gravity barrier. But anyway, her quest is super difficult. So I can't really recommend her. And then same goes for... Let's see, who else is there? This is Mika. She is another either null gravity barrier or a null warp character that you could use in Kushinada. But her quest is also super difficult. And what's more is that she takes... she needs null warp characters. And it's a little bit more difficult to get null warp characters before null gravity or null damage wall. And then other red drop monsters that would be good for Kushinada. Another good one of my most highly recommended, is Rakshasa, either the Evolution or the Ascension. But again, his quest is very difficult. And then, who else is good? You could use Gray. He does have the null gravity barrier. Again, another difficult quest. And then another one that I really like, Vendetta, also a very difficult quest. And you could use Leah here. She's one of the Mythos characters. Yes, she's really easy to get, and pretty useful more towards the beginning of the mission. On that last stage, she might not be very useful. And then there's Astaroth as well, the Evolution. Also kind of a difficult quest, though. That might be about it. So yeah, Kushinada is one of the easier impossible quests. But if you did not have any good Hatcher monsters, then beating Kushinada with a all drop monster team, the hurdle is a little bit high. So maybe Kushinada is like a medium priority. Izanami would be high priority, Kushinada would be medium priority. Alright. Next, that brings us to Yamato Takeru. His quest is probably the most difficult of the first wave of impossibles. So that already sort of eliminates him as the first impossible monster for beginners that I would recommend. And then also gathering a drop monster team for him is also kind of tough. Tengu's tough, Basilisk is tough. Yeah, putting together a Yamato Takeru team might also be difficult. So I would call him low priority, even less than Kushinada. All right, and so after Yamato Takeru is Izanagi, and his quest is also kind of recognized as not very difficult. And there are also lots and lots of drop monsters that can be good for him. Basically, anybody with no warp would be good for him. The thing about Izanagi, though, is that as a character, he's not super useful. He's only got the single null ability, and yeah, bump combo's okay, strike shot's okay. So he's another really low priority. And then I personally find his quest very, very difficult. You can see that I haven't even tried to max luck him, so... Okay, and then after Izanagi was released, there was Tsukuyomi, and then her, I would say she's high priority. Once you get used to her mission, it can be the easiest, and then it can also be the quickest. You can get like a 7-minute clear if you get really used to this one. And then also her gathering a drop monster team to take her on is pretty doable as well. Let's see, you could use Leah Evolution as well. That is again a Mythos character. Where'd she go? Okay. So there's Leah Evolution. Her attack is high enough that she can one-punch the little guys. And then she's got the null gravity barrier, which works. Not ideal, but you could bring her. And then other good characters would be... I would say Ghoulie Evolution. He would be one of the best Pierce monsters to use in Tsukuyomi. And his quest isn't too hard. And then also... I would highly, highly recommend Lucas, the Evolution version. He's real basic as far as the stats and abilities, but his bump combo is very strong. And in certain situations, his bump combo can take down little guys. even without anybody hitting that little guy. So he's very highly recommended. And he also appears as often as the Mythos quests, so he's almost always available. So yeah. So what is that? Leah, Lucas, and Ghoulie. More than Leah, though, I would recommend. More than Leah, I would recommend Tiger Eye X. And yeah, she's another one of my top choices for Tsukuyomi. High hit points, high speed, an attack high enough to one-punch the little guys, and then a blast pump combo. So yeah, I would say the hurdle, actually maybe Tiger Eye X, the hurdle's a little bit high to getting her, because you need to play the X2 collection of missions, and then try to unlock her. But she's worth the effort. And yeah, so her, Ghoulie, and then Lucas. Those would be my recommendations for Tsukuyomi. And then Tsukuyomi is also top class as far as usability, so I would highly recommend her. Okay, moving on. Next, beginning with the second wave of Impossibles, it begins with Ashida. And her quest is on the more difficult side. And then also gathering a team of drop monsters is not the easiest thing to do. One of the best characters for her is Okita Solji, but Okita Solji's quest is very difficult. And then also another blue null damage wall is Louis the 13th, but her quest is also difficult. So I can't really recommend Ashida overall. And then, as far as her use, she's a little bit less useful than most other Impossibles, so I wouldn't recommend Ashida. And then after her is Bishamonten, and then she is on the difficult side, and then putting together a drop monster team for her is also difficult. And it's very strict, because the type of monsters, or the number of monsters you can get is very, very small. If you wanted to one-punch all the little guys, then Jiraiya Evolution and then Gigamantis are really your only options. So here is Jiraiya Evolution, and his quest is so-so. You can get him fairly easily. Gigamantis, however, is much more difficult, and yeah, depending on who your friend is, you're going to need 2 of Gigamantis or 2 of Jiraiya if you wanted to take on Bishamonten. So I would say Bishamonten is also low priority for players just starting out. The next character, however, Marishiten, I would call him a high priority for beginners. Once you understand how his quest works, I would say it's one of the easier quests. And then it's fairly easy to put together a drop team as well. One of the best drop monsters for Marishiten is Leah Ascension, and she is a Mythos quest monster, so she's very easy to get. And then the other top drop monster that I would recommend is Gargoyle, and her quest is a little bit on the difficult side, but not too bad. So yeah, her and Leah I would say are locks. The last drop monster, it's a little bit more open, and you kind of have to pick a character that's less than ideal. You could go for Leah Evolution, actually. There are mines and then some gravity barriers in the quest, so you could bring her. So yeah, I would say for Marishiten, 2 of the drop monsters are locks, Leah Ascension and then Gargoyle Ascension. And then the last one you could save for a guy with Flight or Minesweeper or no gravity barrier, or no damage wall rather, any of those. So yeah, and then after Marishiten is Akala. And then Akala, him too, if you understand how his quest works, then he's one of the easier, I would say. And then there is a chance to get a match shot on the second to last stage, and then just skip the last stage altogether. So from a certain point of view, he's one of the easier ones. And then putting together a team for him is also pretty doable. One of the best ones is Queen Butterfly, also good for Izanami. And then you could bring Leah Evolution. We're seeing how useful she is. You can bring Leah Evolution also to Akala. And then actually, in the trials, we get a Bahamut. And he can also be a good drop monster in Akala. So yeah. And then he's pretty useful, or the character of Akala himself is pretty useful to beginners. Because a lot of the earlier quests have gravity barriers and damage walls. So he can be really good if you don't have the right Hatcher monsters. So yeah, Akala I would say is a fairly high priority. And then finally, to round out the second wave of impossibles is Daikokuten. And he's very difficult, or they are very difficult, and it's also difficult to put together a drop team for him. So I would just ignore him until much, much later. Alrighty, so that was my kind of quick rundown of which impossibles are the most recommended for beginners. Just to review, I would say they are Izanami, and Marishten, and Tsukuyomi. So these three characters, these are fairly easy quests once you understand them. They are fairly easy to put together an all-drop team, and then they're also very, very useful, all three of them. And then my dark horse pick is Akala here. Kind of a difficult quest, but also if you understand it, it can be easy, and it's also fairly easy to put together a team for him. So those are my top 4 choices, I guess. Of course, this is all with the this is all under the assumption that you only have drop monsters for these impossible missions. If you had some Hatcher monsters that were really good for any of these impossible monsters, then that more becomes your priority. So, for example, I said earlier that Ashida was kind of low priority because it was difficult to put together a drop team and then take her down with that team. But if, for example, you were to get a Susanoo, that changes everything. If you pull a Susanoo, for example, you want to go immediately after Ashida because he makes it much easier. So yeah, look at look at websites online or check out my other videos about impossible monsters, and then look at which Hatcher monsters you have, and maybe go after those impossible monsters first. Hopefully that was helpful, and yeah, good luck with your impossible monster hunting. Take care.